Have I got a game for you? Alright, so playing mono blue again, and we win the die roll. Always useful. Playing against our opponent, Token Counter. Very adept player. I enjoyed the match. And we're playing Teferi. Yeah, screwed you guys up that time. Decided to try and test some of the other mono blue legends. Teferi's was first on the list. The deck's not really built right for a zombie, I feel. It's not the wizard count, I don't think is the right critical mass, but Teferi seems great for the counter control matches. I'm going to try Arcanus as well, but I think the 6 mana is going to hurt him more than anything. And then Vendilion Click is the other one that's on my radar as a potential test, especially at the 3 mana point. Rain just took the slot in the deck in the place of Teferi, and she gets to perform well this game as well. It's a little bit of a slow hand, but that's okay. We have Mana Drain. Mana Drain power out that Beguiler should be able to do some good work. We're playing against Wydwen, the Biting Gale. Actually makes me really happy I have Teferi as my commander at this point, because Teferi does a great job of shutting down Wydwen. Wydwen likes to try to operate on your end steps and exist in Flash, so being able to shut down that Flash ability is actually pretty relevant and makes her a pretty terrible creature as a 4 mana 3/3 sorcery. The pay 1 life, this dodge ability, is one of the reasons Wydwen's so good, is that she can dodge the commander attacks as long as you just treat her as if she starts out with attacks and then just bounce her to the hand whenever she would try to eat removal or be wrathed away. So she's pretty good. Probably one of the better blue-black commanders. I think arguably the best, but we'll see. Alright. Like I said, keeping this hand, and I think he keeps his 7 as well, or she. And I'm just going to land go for a few turns. That's just us chatting on the side. Good luck, have fun. Alright, land go, and he has Cavern on Wizard, and this is the first disappointing thing. I was planning on mana draining something good, and that sort of is a message. But he has no play off it, which surprises me that he played this. This, to me, says that this was his second land, and he doesn't have anything else in his hand. Otherwise, he wouldn't have played Cavern out right away. Because if I just untap and strip or wasteland his Cavern, he's lost his uncounterability against a blue deck, and that's not something that he wants to expose himself to. So I think this is his only land, and he didn't want to just miss a land drop. So I'm going to play the long game. I could run out Rain here, but I really wanted to leave up Negate in case he just kept the hand on like an Arena or something that would just build up too much advantage. And like I said, if I draw, now that I have the triple blue, if I draw any, I don't even need a land. If I can mana drain anything on his turn that he uses at least 2 mana for, no, anything on his turn, I can untap Reliquary Tower, mana from the drain, and run Beguiler out on turn 4, which should be pretty good. So he has Dust Bowl. Now, for me, Dust Bowl I think should always go in front of Cavern, so I think he top decked this Dust Bowl at this point. And that's fine. He only has a single colored mana. Alright, so he has a stop on my draw step, and that was a little interesting to me, so we'll see what that turns into. Preordained, that was a Talaria West there. Talaria West went on top, and then Mana Vault. So we're going to draw the Mana Vault and use the tower to run Mana Vault off. And I make a thoroughly embarrassing mistake here because this is I think the second game that I've ever played with Teferi as the commander. I forget that Teferi costs blue, blue, blue. I thought he was blue, blue 3, and I was like, alright, I'll play Mana Vault, end step, get into Teferi. It's not the case. Alright, now he has Darkslake Shores, so he's definitely top decking lands at this point. So I make some embarrassing tapping here, trying to cast something, and I'm sure he realizes that I was trying to cast a fairy, but not understanding how my commander worked. We draw the Talaria West that we knew about, and we could have transmuted it there, got the Crypt, but really at this point I wanted to slam more blue mana down. And on the end step, he goes for, let's see, blue, blue 1, Wizard, instant speed? Whatever could that be? the thing that he has been using the stop on my draw step for, which is one of the other considerations for the potential commander for this deck. But Vanilla Click, he's unfortunately I cannot mana drain it. Technically, I could counter it. The counter would not work, but mana drain would still function to add mana to my mana pool. At this point, I'm actually hoping he takes the drain, though. It's by far the most powerful card. I want him to value the drain over my capture of Jingzhou. So I could drain it, and then on my next, because I could drain with negate backup. But then I think he would just take the negate or the capture. And I really want my capture to stick around. I'm planning on using that with Beguiler to take over the game. So I want him to take this mana drain, and the mana's not really worth it to me. So I decided to let it go. Well, it's going to resolve either way. The spell obviously resolves, but I want him to take this drain out of my hand. And he does, and I get Spell Crumple. It's a respectable counterspell. Alright, so he goes for Thoughtseize, and now I expect him to be trying to take that capture out of my hand. Figured that he could get one and then the other, but saw double counter magic. So I'm going to negate that. It's an easy target. There's an argument that I should have used Spell Crumple there because it's the more costly counter magic, but negate is more narrow, and Spell Crumple is very powerful for getting rid of problem spells, keeping them out of yards and everything. And of course, because I negated it, I don't have mana for Teferi. That's okay. Not going to pay. Draw an island. Okay. I start tapping many here. I figured now is the time to deploy Rain. I have Teferi mana if I can stick him down. If not, he has to leave his mana up, counter at the end of his turn, and then I have an untap, albeit without Vault, and I can slam Beguiler. And that's my plan at this point, because if Teferi resolves, Beguiler will resolve. If he has to counter Teferi, Beguiler should resolve short of something like Force of Will, because he spent his mana on Teferi during his end step. And that's really what I'm leaning on him as a commander for. A commander with Flash has the ability to make my opponent tap out on their end step instead of on my leaving up mana on my turn. So I'm going to trade this mana vault, this untapped mana vault for the time being, for the ability to resolve Beguiler on my turn. Alright, so triple blue and 3. I finally try to get Teferi down, and he goes for the Essence Scatter. Alright, well, it got a counter out of his hand, and now we're going to be able to try to resolve Beguiler. Draw a land, and that land was actually pretty key here, because 5, 6, 7. We're one turn away from being able to capture. If we can get Beguiler down, we're one turn away from being able to capture and Spell Crumple to protect it, giving us 2 turns of Beguiler usage. So, Rain's going to come in, and we tap down for Beguiler. Now I'm hoping that leaving this blue-blue up is going to sort of telegraph that I have a counterspell, even though I can't actually play said counterspell this turn. He's also been missing lands, so it's possible he doesn't want to tap all the way down, just because if I have anything good, I untap, I have a full untap. He knows I have the capture, he doesn't know about the Spell Crumple. So he knows I can take 2 turns in a row if he taps down. So he finds a land and ships in with Click. Now at this point, I do not have enough creatures to take control of Click, which is unfortunate. So my plan is I can play the Teferi on my turn. If it resolves, I have Beguiler take Click, and he can't do anything about it. So, draw a Lighthouse Chronologist. That changes things. Lighthouse Chronologist lets me use Beguiler, cast Lighthouse Chronologist. If he counters it, that's fine. I can use Beguiler next turn, but I can capture this turn. So I can capture, and then untap, cast Teferi, and then use Beguiler, and get the Click. If he doesn't counter it, I just get to Beguiler the Click, and level up Chronologist twice, and hold on to Spell Crumple. So you'll see what he ends up doing. So I run out the Lighthouse Chronologist, and he goes for Cracking Tarn, getting his ABUR Duel. Blue Wizard. Okay, so I'm thinking Venser here, bounce the Beguiler, and Snapcaster Mage. Well, that's okay with me. I can take that with Beguiler. And he knows about my capture. So I think this was the turning point for him. The fact that he gave me the third creature that I needed to get Click into play. I think he forgot about the capture in my hand. I think that was his plan with Thoughtseize, take the capture. And then I wouldn't be able to do this Beguiler trick that I'm planning on. So he stops my Chronologist. That's fine with me. I use Beguiler and tap out for capture. I saw that he F6'd when I used the Beguiler effect. It didn't stack, it just automatically gave it to me. So I knew if I just ran the capture out, I would, assuming he F6'd, or had continued to F6 and not next level me, F6, predicting the Beguiler and then turn off the yields, capture resolves. Alright, so I rain in for one, just because. Get another untap, choose not to do that, take a damage, ouch, and Click is mine. And just like that, the board has turned. So now, we can sit on either Teferi or Spell Crumple. We have 8 mana, which is 1 short of being able to do both. Oh no, 2 short of being able to do both. I was used to having the vault. Alright, so he goes land go, and I decide to not run out Teferi. I'm in a commanding board position. I'm at the point where I'm forcing him to answer my board, and that's the way that I want it to stay. So if I can make him have to answer this, I can play the waiting game on him, and he doesn't have forever. I mean, he has 34 life, it's a lot, but I am doing 6 a turn, which can start to add up. Mindstone, I'll play that. So Mindstone comes down. I crash in with everything but Beguiler. If he flashes in Wydwen to try to block, I can Beguiler it out of the way, and then he has to spend his mana to bounce it back. So he'd do nothing but tap himself out and pay a life. So, and end step, he goes for some Mystical Teachings. Well, we're going to make you spend mana for that. Spell Crumple that, and I'm tapped down. And he has the Muddle. Okay, so Mystical Teachings getting Wretched Confluence. And this was a partial mistake on my part for not reading my own cards, but you'll see what happens. So, I like Wretched Confluence. It was printed in the new Commander decks, and I think this is the Legendary Prize Packs for Moto. Draws a card, loses life, neg 2 to a thing, or a Raise Dead effect. I don't think he's going to be using Raise Dead. I'm expecting him to just neg 2 3 of my creatures, but that wouldn't be a great call because of rain. So, we're going to see what he does. He taps mana, he untaps, figures out he can tap better. And he goes for the Wretched Confluence on 2 of my creatures. I agree, he's got to get Beguiler off the table, and I think he overestimated the strength of rain. He clearly knew about the ability, so this might have just been a ploy to get it off the table now, except that I'm going to get a card off his removal spell and eat it up. And if I randomly get Beguiler back, it makes dealing with Beguiler again much easier. So we draw Sower of Temptation, my other mind control effect, which is wonderful, and a Medallion. Okay. 2 cards I'm happy to draw, and we have our untapped Mana Vault. And this was my mistake. I thought that when Beguiler left the board, that he actually got his guys back, and that is not the case. You just get to keep them until he can use something like Homeward Path. And I think he thought the same as I did, that if he got Beguiler off, he would get his board back. So, I didn't read my own cards, even though I use Beguiler so much and sing its praises. It's just shown to be even better than I thought it was going to be. Alright, so we're not untapping our untapped Mana Vault. Draw Crypt. Alright, so I play around with my mana for a sec. Realize I can Crypt, Medallion, and then Teferi with Sower up. So, and play around with mana. Teferi resolves. Alright, cool. So, no flash shenanigans. I get in for 5, drop him down to 22. Now I'm just planning on cracking Mindstone here at this point. I have a chance of fighting a counter. 4 mana up and Medallion in play. I can play any counter in the deck. So, granted, Wizard. And he goes for Gilded Drake. Alright, so I'm going to crack the Mindstone, and I get Magus the Future. It's not a bad draw. It's not a counter, but it's a pretty good draw. So, And I also have the Sower to take back Teferi, so I'm not terribly worried about Teferi disappearing. He's also increased my clock, or no, my Teferi is now blocking the mage, but I have three power flyers now, so my clock went from 5 to 6, so to speak. Usually I won't swing with Teferi just because of random gets. The first game that I played, I wasn't swinging with him at all. But we'll see. So I win my flip, take some damage, and draw Void Mage Husher. Not very great when my opponent has my Teferi. So I have 3 of his creatures, which I thought was pretty interesting. So we're going to crash in. I'm hoping that he runs out Wydwen and tries to block and reduce my clock some. And I wouldn't have blamed him if he did it at this point, just to slow me down some. He is starting to hemorrhage life. Alright, so I feel like he's got a counter magic at this point. He's got 3 cards in hand, a lot of mana open. He's either planning on casting Wydwen, or he's countering whatever I do. So I'm going to run the Sower out first. He doesn't want me to have Teferi because it turns off his deck, so he's sort of obligated to counter Sower if he can. So, Sower... Alright, flashback on teachings. Alright, spend 6 mana, you got it. Go get Force and pitch your Condescend because I had so much mana up. I am totally okay with that. Alright, you have forced my Sower. You'll show me. And we throw Magus, and we had Counterspell on top, so that wouldn't have helped or anything. And I make a blunder here. I leave up Void Mage Husher, even though I had the mana to cast it, thinking, oh, I can get him with the Husher, and that's not the case, because Teferi's in play. So he goes with Sunken Ruins and passes a turn. I win my flip again. Oh my gosh, are we bugged? I think the replay has bugged. Yes, it has. Alright. That's unfortunate. Okay. So what happens was, I draw the counterspell, I reveal Pithing Needle off the top, play the Needle, Needle Wydwen to get rid of its second ability, reveal Island off the top, play the Island, reveal Cyclonic Rift, targeting the Teferi, he counters the Rift, I try to get in for 6, he blocks Gilded Drake, with Wydwen goes to the, I Cyclonic Rift, target Teferi, revealing Winter Orb off the top of my library. He counters the Cyclonic Rift. I play Winter Orb off Mana Crypt. I go for combat, hit for 6, and he taps 4 of his lands with my Winter Orb in play to go for Wydwen. Blocks the Gilded Drake, kills, they trade, and then after that, in main 2, off the top of my library, I cast Glenalandra Archmage with Island up. So he untaps to 3 lands total. If he plays a land, he'll be at 4. And I have a Glenalandra in play, which I can use underneath the Teferi, and 5 power in the air against his 12 life. It wasn't quite there, but Winter Orb does tend to seal the game quite quickly. So, unfortunately it bugged, but this was a pretty good game, so hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you in the next one. Let me know what you think of Teferi. He's pretty cool so far. We'll see if he works out. I'm not shelling out the money for Vrin's Prodigy right now. If he goes down in the coming months with the rotation, maybe I'll think about it, but for the time being, I have no interest in playing him, so we will see you guys in the next one then.